Left, right, left nation. We're back with another episode. Veterans Making a Difference, number 16. We got the garage studio open tonight, smoking cigars and cigarettes, keeping it real, doing what we do. Hey, first off, thanks everybody for all your continued support. I truly appreciate it. The love that you, this labor of love that I'm doing, I can't do it without your support. And thank you for jumping on board and giving me all the encouragement and continuing to keep this channel moving. We're making a difference. We're moving forward. We are paying it forward and doing all those good things. So please like, share, subscribe, all those good things that all YouTubers will tell you, because every penny is donated to the Amphibious Tractor Memorial being built at Quantico, Virginia. All right, that's it. We're moving on with tonight's guest. So my guest tonight, this is going to be, it's going to hit the heart a little bit. It's a topic that we talk about a lot, but we tend to turn the page on it rather quickly. It's the topic of suicide. I have sitting across from me tonight a young Marine who is going through a medical process right now to be discharged from the Marine Corps because he attempted suicide by putting a .38 caliber revolver to his head, squeezing the trigger, and he's here to share because he lived to tell about it. And not only that, he wants to share some of the behind-the-scenes thoughts of why he did it. And additionally wants to caution and tell other people, better way to go about it rather than to do that. So, hey, I'm done talking. Most of the talking is going to be done tonight by my guest, James Clarke. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely a pleasure. It's definitely a pleasure, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I could have done it without you. And I definitely want to shout out to and Fox Company, 2nd Platoon, and all the boys and family and friends and whatnot. It's definitely a privilege. So I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, we're definitely going to cover a lot of topics. Definitely give some more context in all why.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Make sure you pull back that mic a little bit. Make sure you're speaking into it for me good. Okay. I want to have good audio quality for everybody tonight. Hey, man, before we get into that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about where you're from, your background, all that good stuff, man. Go ahead.
So this is a surprising part about me. So, right, my name is James Clarke, but my full name is James Clarke Gonzalez. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Very surprising, right? Don't even have an accent, but, hey, not only with being my background in the sense of growing up from Puerto Rico and whatnot, but with this surprising thing. I come with surprises is what I like to tell people. But yeah, born and raised until I was 15. Fortunately, hurricanes always come by Puerto Rico, kind of make it hard to live. So definitely had to move out of there. Moved out of there with my mom and moved to Massachusetts, to be specific. And yeah, no, definitely was definitely an interesting ride from there.
What part of Massachusetts, bro? That's where I'm from, right? What part?
I didn't know. Danvers.
Danvers, okay, a little bit north of me. I grew up in a small city called North Attleboro.
Very well.
In Bristol County.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the places I know is Danvers, Lynn, Beverly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like a whole nother world up there.
Yeah. No, definitely. Most definitely.
Okay.
But it was definitely interesting in the sense of Puerto Rico, it's all Spanish speaking, and then going to the United States, all English speaking. So it definitely was a change, but I had the advantage, my dad, he's pure Irish and doesn't speak a lick of Spanish, but definitely that exposure definitely made it easier for me to learn English and learn Spanish, meanwhile being in Puerto Rico. But
nice to be bilingual for sure.
Yeah,
very helpful today.
With a lot of things, yeah.
Why'd you join the Marine Corps, brother?
So the main reason, one thing I definitely respected is the military. When I was a kid with all the hurricanes passing by, the first to be there, the first to take care of us was the military. So I really respected that image that they uphold. And I know the military is not just humanitarian aid, but in a sense, they're there to help us and defend us. So I respected that image so much that I wanted to do that. So why did I pick specifically the Marine Corps? Because I was like, you know what? I've heard a lot of good things, and it's definitely cool to say, hey, I was in the Marines, did 4 years. The brand of the Marine Corps is definitely
that's right.
It's definitely what brought me in. But I was ready for the challenges, and as you can see, I did 4 years, so I definitely went through those challenges. Fortunately, did some stuff here and there that could have made a difference to prevent that day, but yeah, no, that's definitely the main reason.
Yeah, walk us through a little bit, right? So you infantryman, you go through your basic, infantry course and all that good stuff, and you go to as you gave the shout out in the beginning, 2nd Battalion. So go ahead, light up, man. Do your thing. It's all good. Don't burn my microphone down, though, homie.
Right,
you good?
My fault.
All right. But you go to Camp Lejeune, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, and you're brand new, and they call it the boot drop. Walk everybody a little bit through about like your experience at 2-2.
Right. So going in, right, everyone, you go in, you have a mindset you want to dig deep, you have a motivational mindset when you get from ITB to the fleet. And yeah, with the leaders, you have your leaders that been in more than you, so they have a lot to know and a lot to share, and it all depends on the leadership. But yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting ride. You start out as a team, depending on what job you are. If it's a grenadier or automatic rifleman, you just do your job, make sure you're doing what you're told. And that's, one thing I like to think is, like, as a Lance Corporal, you don't think, you just do, or I got into the fleet as a Lance Corporal, so yeah. You just do, right? And but yeah, as long as you did your job, as long as you're a good dude, no one really put a lot of attention. But unfortunately, you make mistakes, and those mistakes will be seen, not just by the person that's correcting you, but by the people around you. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to make good soldiers, good Marines, in the sense of not making mistakes, because mistakes could cause lives. So definitely there is that mindset of being perfect and making sure you're doing everything nice. But yeah,
walk everybody through like those mistakes, because and again, I'm not going to take your story, of course, but there's some lead up and some things that happened, to get you to ultimately to that point where you felt like that you had no other option but to attempt to take your own life. So walk through that. Yeah.
So basically, right, everyone has different coping mechanisms. It's either drinking, sex, alcohol, all those easy coping mechanisms. And yeah, with the mistakes, me personally, I chose some pretty bad things, which was, well, not bad things, but more in the sense of my coping mechanisms was buying stuff. A lot of people knew me in my platoon. For
credit card guy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Shit.
Yeah, no, I definitely bought a lot of stuff in for my craft, like gear in the sense of like new war belt, new this, new that. And, I like to invest in my craft, but it wasn't definitely a good coping mechanism because, you get yourself in debt, and then when you need to pay some stuff, you can't pay because you're in debt, right? So unfortunately, that was my coping mechanism, and going out and going out on dates, as a young 19-year-old, of course you get sucked into that. I'm not the only one, but I was too invested into that aspect. So I definitely went out a lot and spent a lot of money, right? At the end of the day, girl wants the man to spend the money, right? So that definitely paid a toll because I was too busy getting to know these women. I was too busy perfecting my craft, too busy investing and forgetting about myself, forgetting about me, forgetting about James, making sure that James is okay.
So you had some personal things that you just shared. Thank you for sharing those things. Because finances can weigh heavily. As a matter of fact, they say that married couples, that's the number one thing they fight about is finances. And, and you're out there, living outside your means, and that can be very, very stressful.
Yeah.
But was there anything like as far as when you were wearing a uniform, in your unit, working up to that, were there stressors there that just kind of were pushing you into this human volcano?
Yeah. So, right, going back to we strive for perfection. I make a lot of mistakes because I was so busy and so focused and trying to uphold a good image, right? Trying to be a good leader at the end of the day. You know, you want to make sure you have that image so that people can follow you and not just respect you because you're telling them what to do, but to respect you because they know you're a good leader, right? So that's definitely the image that I was trying to show. But unfortunately, I was so busy trying to not make those mistakes that I wasn't focused on the task at hand, to whatever that task is. So because of not being focused on that task, which would cause more mistakes. And more mistakes mean feel more shitty, meaning spending more money, right? Because that was my coping mechanism, and going out and whatnot, right? I think my problem was being in the moment, focusing on the task at hand, and worry about making mistakes later, you know? So
That's a lesson, definitely a lesson learned, and
oh, of course,
particularly in a high risk environment like infantry and combat arms.
Of course,
you got to be razor sharp and focused. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add is, like, you know, we take care of Marines in the sense of PTing, right? We have our PTs to make sure the Marines are fit, right? Because you don't want someone that's not fit. That's because I got to depend this guy on my life. Like, he has my life in my hands, and if he's not fit, right, he's not gonna. How is he gonna be able to run to me and pick me up, right? So the point I'm trying to get at is we need to take care of our mindset. The same way that we take care of our bodies, we need to make sure that we're taking care of the mind. The same way that you go to the gym, pump iron, you know, do your bicep curls and train the bicep and whatnot. Same thing you got to do with the brain. And I think that's what we forget, you know?
I agree.
I think we're just so focused on being, in a sense, like a robot, right? To, like, do it, don't think, just do, right? But I will say in 2-2, we definitely wanted to make Marines to think and be more of a thinker instead of a doer, but it's just hard, right? Because when you're a Lance Corporal, you got people that want you to do, and then you want people to, so it's keeping that balance. It's just very difficult. Keeping that balance of, well, I'm a Lance Corporal, I got to do, and also I want to be a leader, so I got to think. So there was a lot of friction in that aspect. So
yeah, I know it's kind of you know, difficult to frame it out so people can understand.
Yeah.
But I can try to provide context. Being a guy who wore a uniform for a long time is, you know, infantry is a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And with that pressure, you get these other factors that are weighing in and creating, you know, stress and turmoil, and you're a little bit not as focused as you should be. And those things can weigh just very, very heavily on you. And in the infantry, they pound on Marines for mistakes, you know, like flagging a line, negligent discharges, you know, doing tactics incorrectly, like because it could have impact. It can cause somebody their life.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Like, I get it,
but yeah, no. You know, that is the goal. At the end of the day, we're trying to get more boys to come back home when the job's done. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and I feel like we forget that. We forget that we're human beings, and I understand that we're set to do some rules, and we're set to do missions, and we're set to save lives and defend lives. But at the end of the day, we're people, just like the lives that we're defending.
Damn
you know
right.
what I mean? And yeah, but going back to the emotional, just focusing. I think the best way to fix that is just really focusing on just being mentally good in that sense.
Yeah.
You're
right. We do get out of balance in the Marine Corps, especially with, you know, with the tangibles, which is, you know, the way you look and the way you perform.
Of course.
You can see, you know, like that physical part of it, but the mental part of it, to the point where, unfortunately, you know, on the topic of suicide, there was a first sergeant who was over at the air station here at Quantico who took his own life, and all indications and warnings were that he was mentally fit, physically fit. This dude was a monster. I mean, he looked like the poster Marine. I mean, small waist, huge arms, chest, back. I mean, just jacked. And he took his own life because just upstairs, he just, something was going on, man, that made him make that decision.
Yeah, it's a silent killer. You know, it's definitely a silent killer. And even with the best image to uphold, those, you know, people, you know, because there's that stereotype that a lot of people want to fit. And that's, you know, being that strong man, you know, because everyone wants to be a leader, right? Everyone wants to lead and be that. I like to compare it to like in the movies, you know, when you see those movies, the war movies about that brave and courageously man, or not just the movies, but just we have history books of people doing miraculous things.
But you had a 38
special.
a 38 special hollow point, penetrate your skull, right? Before you talk about specifically like what was going through your mind when you actually did that action, right? Like, what was the breaking point, or like the point where you're like, look, I'm going to do this?
So, right, with the mistakes, I like to think of it as like you got your pack, right? Every mistake is another 10 pounds. So, right, every mistake I had, instead of like looking at the mistakes and actually taking care of them, or in the sense of like mentally, like taking care and just breaking down, I just ignored them, right? Just put more loads on the pack, put more loads. Eventually, it's going to be a heavy pack where that last mistake, it's probably going to make that pack crumble, and it's going to make yourself crumble. So that's basically what happened on that day, January 2nd of this year. By the way, very surprising. I shouldn't even be alive. I shouldn't even be this well. But the proof is all there. We'll definitely show pictures of the severity of this thing, and it's wild. It's wild that I'm able to speak to y'all, and it's wild that I'm able to speak to you. But yeah, going back to the mistakes, right? Bunch of mistakes, boom, 10 pound, heavy, until it got to that time where, and it's not just mistakes in the military, it's mistakes in personal life as well.
Right.
You know, they're both combined. Going back to me just being a human, right?
Right.
It's not all about work. You know, there's work life and there's your personal life. And I think once both of those places are not working well, then.
And are you the type of man that sort of keeps things to yourself and bottles things up?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people never, they see me always smiling. I'm a very talkative dude. I always talk, you know, and they always see me smiling. They always see me joking, laughing. They never really saw that deep until I actually show it, which is very rarely, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to keep that image of being a strong man, right? Not just being a strong man for myself, but being a strong man for my future, for the future people that I lead, right? So that's the whole point, right? I'm trying to keep that image, and it's just very hard. It's a very hard struggle, but I think we need to forget that we need to humble ourselves. We need to humble ourselves that at the end of the day, we're human beings, and we're all going to die one day. You know, the only person that I respect in the sense of like, he has all the word and all the say is, I'm not religious, but Jesus Christ. You know, he
was perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
It says, I'm an imperfect soul, so I make mistakes, cause more problems, and because of my bad coping mechanisms, which is, right, the buying, doing all that, causing myself going more in debt, it definitely brought me to a point where, you know, as a human, you want to control everything. I didn't have any control, all right?
Yeah,
and
interesting.
And life kind of caught me, right? Because I remember 2 days before my transmission on my Jeep Wrangler, it blew, right? So sure, it could have been prevented, but it just came out of nowhere, in the sense of life just comes out of nowhere. So you have your own mistakes that you make by yourself, and then you have life that just comes out of nowhere to give you more mistakes or more problems.
Sure.
So, right, the combination of those two things, it definitely brought me to that day of being so overwhelmed and wanting control and wanting to stop living that way, that, unfortunately, I did succumb to my own demise and made that action.
Walk us through January 2nd from start to finish.
right to. I remember I had duty. I had duty on the 30th. Right.
So keep in mind, this is during the holiday period for all the viewers, and most people are out and about at home, and they're out on leave.
Families.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, right, everyone's out on leave. Duty, got duty, so I didn't have much sleep. Next day, going out on a date, right? 31st, awesome, right? New Year's Eve date, pretty cool. On the way there, that's when the tranny fell through. It only could go to second gear, but hey, it was still drivable. Right, came back on the 1st, dealing with everything, financial, I'm in debt. I'm thinking about how am I going to fix this problem, because my car is like, I'm not in the sense of the label, it's in a sense it's my
it's freedom, dog.
Yeah, freedom.
It's Lance Corporal fucking freedom, dude.
No,
100%.
I would drive myself to the gym. That was my other coping mechanism. Drive myself to the places to meet the women or have dates and whatnot, or just do things on my own without depending on someone. So it was my freedom. Yeah, that's a great word. Great word. And I remember calling my dad, and I love my dad, and for all the dads out there, respect, good respect. But I called him and I asked him if he could help me out. Obviously with Image, going back to Image, I didn't want my dad to have his son ask him, because, I want to be able to be a man and be able to fend for myself instead of asking, right? But I need to, in that time of desperation, I was just like, didn't care about the Image, just wanted to fix the problems. And I called my dad, as any dad would be. He was fairly pissed off, and that you're in debt, that you're not doing well. And I remember on the phone, and I told him, don't worry. And after that phone call, I remember I was at the mechanic, and I told him to stop the diagnosis. I remember calling my buddy that was supposed to pick me up, told him to stop doing that too. Don't worry, I got a ride. And I drove to my buddy Ripley, he's another Marine. Drove to his house. That's where I had my gun at. And by the way, all the 50 metal. So I bought the gun not for the deed. Bought the gun because I've always wanted one. And I had 50 full metal jackets and 25 hollow points. I shot all those, a couple months back at the range with my buddies. I only had 25 hollow points left. So in my mind, I thought, you're definitely gonna die, right? That's what I was aiming for, by the way. So when I drove to his house, that was the whole plan, because I was done. I was done with the parents, the Marines. Everything's just kind of going downhill. So I drove to the barracks because I wanted people to know that, hey, he's here, and that they didn't have any trouble trying to find me. So that was kind of like my plan, in the sense. I didn't want to hurt anyone because they're my problems. They're not anyone else's. I don't need to bring anyone else into it, right? And I was pretty safe about everything, right? So I remember, getting out of the car, and I remember feeling that sensation, like, damn, this is it. Like, I'm gonna die.
You made a choice.
I made a choice. I did make that choice because I tell people I didn't want to die. I just wanted to stop living the way I was living. It's too much. I just wanted a quick change. I didn't want to do drugs. Is that what? That takes 2 hours out of your day, or I don't want to drink until I'm passing out.
You didn't want to slow roll it with alcohol abuse and drug abuse. You're like, let me just get a quick end. And I tell it, man. About you went to your room and all that.
I went to my room. Like he said, there's not a lot of people. Everyone was on leave. Didn't expect much, so I just my roommate, he was shout out to Curtis, he wasn't gonna be back until like 3 days later. And so if I would have died and passed out, no one would have known. And no one did know. No one knew that shot was fired. It was one shot. No one knew. And when I was in the room, just loaded one round, laid myself down on the ground, and cocked the hammer back, and by the way, I was listening to music. I had headphones on. You'll see the pictures. Creed, One Last Breath. And
The irony of that.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. No suicide note, and I guess that's something saying that I wasn't meant to die that day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no suicide note, none of that. And yeah, I cocked the hammer back, laid down on the ground, pulled the trigger. You know?
And what's interesting is that first of all, I'm sorry. I have a lot of empathy for that in you to do that. What's interesting is you would think, right? Like, I'll speak on behalf of the viewers. They're like, okay, a 38 special with a hollow point into your skull. Like, what's amiss here, right? But talk about like how there was sort of like a divine intervention to keep you here on Earth.
Yeah, no, definitely. And with the pictures, it definitely shows a little bit of evidence and a little bit of, a little bit of words without me saying them. You know, they can kind of tell. But, yeah, no, so I had the gun against the head at first. And because of the movement, because I had it at first here, and I was like, you know what, let me just push it back because I don't want to feel a blast. I mean, I was eventually going to feel a blast, but it was my first time doing this. You know what I mean? I'm trying to feel less pain. So push the gun back, and by me pushing the gun back, and this is snub nose, and we'll put a picture of an exact replica of it. Snub nose, so there's a distance, right? And I don't have eyes here, but pretty sure if you put a gun to your head, you're anywhere the bullet goes, you know, you're probably gonna die, or you're probably gonna be severely injured or crippled, right? But I did that, and because of that movement, it went perfectly, and we'll show photos, to the headband of those headphones, you know? And I think that definitely played a part in making sure that I was still alive, but at the end of the day, you know, these headphones are not bulletproof. And if you can see in the headband, it's plastic. It's not metal, you know? It didn't do anything in the sense of diversion the bullet did its job in the sense of going through my head. When you see the pictures, you see it went through my skull. It broke through my skull. It opened the door into my brain. It was in my brain. But yeah, no, I definitely think the hollow point probably slowed down. I don't know the mathematical ballistics about it. Have yet to be told and explained. But in my theory, I think as the bullet went through the headband, it slowly started to become a flat surface, so that when it entered my skull, it was flat surface to flat surface. So basically what fractured my skull was just the sheer velocity and power that just kind of ruptured it. So instead of a pointy surface to a flat surface, it was more of a flat surface. But still, you know, look at this. This is just, there's not enough skin or tissue. This is an eggshell, you know?
Yeah.
And it is, and people have died with a 22.
Oh,
with
of
a
course.
lower caliber. You know what I mean? So I would definitely expect that I would die, you know? But no, I didn't. And I didn't even pass out. If I would have passed out and not being alive, no one would have known. And I would have died. I would have bled out to death if I would have passed out. But guess what? At first I was like, I'm still alive. I remember feeling the side of my head, seeing the blood. The bullet did its job, right? That's what I was thinking. I could have loaded another round, but my curiosity is what kept me alive, because I was curious to know what the hell was going on.
Yeah. And that's interesting that, you know, you're conscious after, you know, a bullet impact in your brain, you're bleeding. It's obviously was loud, and you managed to
Get help.
Crawl to help.
Yeah.
Talk to everybody about that, about, you know, then getting into the, you know, ambulance and all that stuff.
Yeah. No. It was insane. It was insane. It was unbelievable. I was still trying to figure out everything. And yeah, that curiosity kept me alive. You know, I wanted to know what the hell was going on. So I literally crawled to my door and I knocked on my buddy's door, and I shout out to Metal. All right, he's my buddy, and you know, and I appreciate him, and I've talked to him, but he was there, fortunately. And by the way, when I knocked on his door, he didn't open the door because he was trying to find out what the hell was going on. Like, what was that loud bang? No, he answered because I knocked. You know? No one knew. And if I would have passed out for like 2 minutes, I would have bled to death. Your head is just a big bubble of blood, you know? But I didn't pass out. So I knocked on his door. He answered, and he was like, hey, what's up, dude? And I was like, obviously I was crying, you know, I was sad. And I told him, hey, man, I shot myself. And he was like, oh, fuck. And, right, he sprung into action, you know, awesome Marine, just straight into, instead of freezing, you know, you straight into to care, you know, stop the bleeding, you know, because there's a lot of blood coming out. Stop the bleeding. Called 911. I remember his hand shivering. He said, who opens the door to someone to tell you that? Who would know? You would never know that you just open the door and all of a sudden it's your buddy saying he shot himself. You know, that's pretty wild. But the ambulance came. You know, I remember them asking all the questions, making sure I'm constantly well, like how many quarters make $1? And I was like, 4. And they were asking about who's the president, and I was like, Joe Biden. I said Donald Trump, but he's not inaugurated, so it was Joe Biden. But I corrected myself. The fact that I was able to answer the questions and not even just answer the questions, but make a mistake and then say the right thing, it just shows that my cognitive self was still there. You know? I remember, you know, just even talking to the anesthetic the day of the surgery. Him telling me, hey, man, I'm your anesthetic doctor. I'm going to put anesthesia. I'm going to put you under. And, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Let me count down.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Man. Like, it's just one kind of win after another, how you hear. You know?
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't.
Obviously, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
There's so many coincidences.
Yeah,
that
crazy.
just make it unreal.
Yeah,
like there's no way that I was that lucky in the sense of having the headphones, in the sense of only having full hollow points, in the sense of putting myself on the ground. The doctors were like, "Wow, you put yourself on the ground," because the doctors were thinking that I probably fell down. But the fact that I put myself on the ground, and the reason why I put myself on the ground was because I didn't want to feel any pain. So in case I did, for some reason, was still alive but paralyzed, and I pass out and hit the ground, I literally put myself on the ground. You know what I mean? So there's just so many coincidences. There's a lot of whys. But instead of asking why, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
To
try to
tell
lean
people,
in, speak. Yeah.
to tell people
Yep.
that you don't have to do what I just did. Don't worry. You have a life to live. The most beautifulest and valuablest thing that you have is your life. And don't worry about all the outside things. And I know it's hard to say. You know, I wish I could talk to each and every individual person. That'll take my whole life. You know. But, you know, I think one reason why I'm still alive, and to this extent, which is crazy, right? It's so crazy. I should be crippled. I should be severely injured, but yet I'm not.
I feel like this was this intervention and all these circumstances, how they unfolded. For me, you know, as an older guy to you, it's an opportunity for you to share.
Yes.
And to walk people through, you know, these things. Because a lot of times we don't understand it. We act like we do, but we don't. We're like, oh, well, he had all these things. And a lot of times people want to know the why. Like, why? Why did you do this? And there's an attitude out there that says a permanent solution for a temporary problem. But that's not the way that you view things when you're under that turmoil, is it?
And especially when you're by yourself. You know, you're by yourself in your own mind. Sure, you can have someone to come help you. You can, you know, I could have called. You know, at the end of the day, people, it's their own lives. Everyone has free will, right? They're going to make their own decisions. What I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, you know, I've had those calls where I called my buddy and I was like, hey, man, I'm not feeling well. But at the end of the day, I'm going to live my own life and I'm going to make my own decisions, even if there's intervention. And that's to everyone. You know, I could sit here and try to help people to not do it, but at the end of the day, people are gonna want to do what they want to do. But what I will do is share to you, because I don't expect you to follow everything I'm telling you verbatim, you know, and I don't want to. I don't want to control your life. I just want to share with you, and maybe strike a little bit of curiosity into you to start thinking a little different, you know, to start changing that mindset.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
You made some just really, really important points, you know, along this path, you know, and one is, you know, the mental aspect of what we do, versus the physical, how that balance needs to be better.
Yeah.
And us as leaders within these military organizations need to pay really good attention on that. And I think the other part is that during warm-ups we talked, and you had you know, you had an incident that happened to where
it made it worse.
You made a suicidal ideation.
I'll definitely,
And that the response to that, in my opinion, wasn't a very good response. It's like, we're going to give you the Band-Aid, but we're not going to treat the symptom of the problem. Go ahead. Over to you.
No. I'll definitely bring that up. And to all my boys in 2-2, by the way, I love y'all. Y'all were there. Y'all were good people. I want to make sure I'm not trying to devalue anyone. Everyone did a great job, but I will stick to the facts in the sense, and I'll start. Right, so on November of last year, right, I was in Jordan, and so remember when I spoke about the mistakes, right, having too many mistakes. So unfortunately, I made a mistake on the range where I'd ND'd, right, but it was all just we strive for perfection, but unfortunately sometimes things don't go as well. And just to give you guys a little brief, like what happened was, you know, we got rounds, you know, we were online, and all we had to do was climb up a hill and lay down and shoot rounds, lay lead. You know, they said that they were going to do dry run, but I did not hear that. And sure, I could have my ears open or whatnot, but unfortunately in that specific area, I was unlucky enough to not hear that word. So yeah, I let off a round safely, right? Conducted it safely, you know, left and rights and whatnot. But everyone else was not laying rounds, right? Because it was a dry run. That was overwhelming to me, right? Making that mistake in front of all my boys, in front of the new joins, it damaged my image. And I'm already this far, you know, it was my 4th year in the Marine Corps. I shouldn't be making those mistakes. So of course, I was very hard on myself. You know, I remember I started crying literally when I got off the range, because I was already going in depth of like, oh, this is gonna happen. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. I'm basically effed.
Yep.
And with all that emotional, you know, instead of thinking rationally, I was just so emotional, right? And I told my doc, and I told him, here's my gun, because I'm about to shoot myself. And, you know, they did well in the sense of reacting. I'm like, they took the gun, you know, put me back to Lejeune, medevaced back to Lejeune, and got treatment, right? In my eyes, I'm thinking, all right, this is good. First time I ever done this, by the way. First time ever getting help, you know, because I was going through so much that I was like, you know what? I'm going to get help. I think I need help. And by the way, that's another thing. We can't do this alone. We got to do this together. We can't do this alone, so don't be an individual, you know. But point is, I got treatment. They said, you know, I remember getting out of the psych, and it said suicidal ideation, ADHD. They treated for ADHD. And yeah, ADHD may have caused some things, but at the end of the day, the root cause wasn't solved, which is suicidal ideation. And it was probably depression, right? And at the time, I don't know what depression is. I'm not going to say I have it if I don't know what it is, you know? So they treated ADHD, which was, it's okay on their part, by the way. I'm not disvaluing anyone. You know, we just thought we were fixing the problem, you know? And, you know, they prescribed me Adderall. And, you know, that's a stimulant, right? And that definitely caused the symptom of depression to exacerbate and definitely be an issue. So the point that we're getting at is basically, right, I asked for help, and yet it didn't work out, right? But don't get it confused. I'm not saying that they were bad. I'm not saying that they sucked. But, yeah, of course, this is definitely, hey, I survived to let people know, like, hey, we need to do some changes. But like I said, I'm not disvaluing the treatment. You know, everyone tries their hardest at the end of the day, and we're all humans. That's one thing that we need to focus, that we're all humans, you know, and it's humans taking care of other humans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I wish I had this, and that, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, where we have everything to you and to yourself. You know, we're not that fortunate.
It's a tough situation because, you know, you want to. I don't think that any of the people that were taking care of you were like, you know, hey, we just want to get this guy out and turn a conveyor belt. I'm not saying that's their mindset, but I do think the seriousness of what you did. I just wish there was a little bit more thought about treatment rather than prescribing medication
and just passing the page, going on to the next.
Right.
And I want to add to that. To this day, I don't take any ADHD medication. So, right, I take antidepressants, right, because depression is what I have. And guess what? I haven't needed any ADHD medication to focus because the actual problem was solved, which was depression. So now that I don't have depression and I don't have those anxieties and those thoughts, now that the actual problem is resolved, I've been so focused. I don't need ADHD medication, right? I've been so focused. Like, you would think that I would be a vegetable after this specific, but the bounce back after this event has been incredible in the sense of focus. Like it really shows that was the problem, not ADHD.
Sure. Yeah.
That the problem was not having the proper medication, and the problem was depression. I mean, come on. Like, ADHD doesn't make you kill yourself. You know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, that is powerful, man. The whole story and the insight to me, it's powerful, and you know, it's like a Rolodex of lessons learned in there.
No,
and I think it's important that, you know, I hope that people really pay attention, you know, to like your words and your explanations, because it gives other folks that are in the fight things to look for and to look after.
Of course.
And to assess and evaluate, you know, these things.
Of course.
Right? And to actually, you know, intervene. And I know you said you had some really tight friends that, you know, would talk to you and check on you and stuff, and it's important. But I do think there is an art to, like, leadership of looking at these indications and warnings that you are going through and having those right talking points, and just, you know, the whole buddy check thing. It's really important, man, to know what to look for.
And, you know, one thing I will say is, and I have to say, these are the words of Gunner Sergeant Johnson. He's my section leader at Walter Reed for Wounded Warrior Battalion. And one thing I want to say is that he said, and I think it's amazing, is to be professional in the sense of correcting. So remember when you said about the leaders?
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like when you're a leader, and in the sense of making mistakes, a lot of your subordinates are going to make mistakes, but correct them professionally. Don't belittle them.
Boom.
Don't
Brother,
belittle them.
I'm really glad that you said that, and I'm glad that we got to this, because and I'm just going to take it from you for about 30 seconds and say that as leaders, right, we talk about a toolkit, and it's important in that toolkit to find the right tool for the right person to utilize to get them on the right track. Whereas a lot of times in the Marine Corps, the only friggin' tool that we use is a damn sledgehammer on everything. We sledgehammer all the problems. And we got to do, but sometimes, you know, you got to get that little Phillips head screwdriver, you know, and massage it in there, right? So that toolkit, it's important. Like, some people will respond from the sledgehammer. Other folks are going to respond, you know, from a hand on a shoulder. Others need reassurance after they make a mistake, and just not, you know, run them up the flagpole, you know, and immediately try to NJP them and hold them accountable, right? Like, we just have to, as leaders, we have to do a better job of rounding out that and be more nuanced in our thinking of how we're going to get people on the right track. Over to you.
Of course. No, the Marine Corps, by the way, the Marine Corps is good. It's the people. It's the people that have a lack of understanding in the sense of professionalism. The Marine Corps does a great job in showing what to do. But I feel like a lot of people take the words of the Marine Corps and start to switch around. And then you got those people that just start blaming the Marine Corps. But it's not really the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is doing its job.
That's a fact, brother.
Yeah.
Show me one piece of Marine Corps literature that talks about poor leadership, abuse, belittling, embarrassing, humiliating. Show me one piece of literature, and I will give you fucking $50. Nobody out there's been able to show me one. The Marine Corps literature and the structure of it is designed perfectly.
Exactly.
It's us that fuck it up.
Yes. No, and
Because we're human, right?
That too. And
We're human.
that's to be
I get it.
expected. That's to be expected. That is to be expected. But as time will go, as time will do its job, we will soon start to learn and start to, evolutionize as humans. Us humans are. We if we compare from here to the past, there's a huge difference in the sense of greatness. I mean, look at all the technology, the fact that we're able to talk face to face and show this sharing to so many people. You know what I mean? We will evolutionize eventually. We gotta let time do its job, and we'll make it better.
Light you up another smoke, man.
Yeah,
So light you up another smoke. And while you're lighting that up, what I'd like to do, we're running short on time. I'd like to start winding this down with some optimism, with some hopefulness, right, and all those things. So
Agreed.
You are pending, a medical separation from the Marine Corps, and talk a little bit about, like what's next for James Clarke, and how are you going to keep yourself out of the turmoil, so this doesn't duplicate and manifest again.
Of course. No,
Go ahead.
Thank you for adding that. I'll be happy to show. So, by the way, the treatment is another thing. The treatment is another thing of how lucky I am, because the treatment is amazing. The people there are amazing. The resources are amazing. We have a lot of resources as military service members, I will say that, and a lot of resources that will help you for success. A lot of people like to blame that. Oh, the Marine Corps just kind of threw me out. They have to stop blaming the Marine Corps. It's not the Marine Corps.
Gotta own your own shit, brother.
Yeah, there you go. And trust me, remember what I told you about the focus. I've been so focused that I know so much, and I'm so prepared, and I'm so driven to face the world as a civilian, and I'm prepared. So what am I doing? So right now I'm going through a medical process, right? Do a little change. Last year I re-enlisted. I was going to do another 4. Because I wanted to be a good leader. That was the end goal. I just wanted to be one of those good leaders.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to. But now, after going through this event, I think it's clearly that Marine Corps is not for me. Not for me to this time. I did 4 years, proudly. Learned a lot, and I'm very thankful for all the people that I've learned from. But I'm definitely I'm gonna do blue collar, right? So I'm already working with the transition liaison, and right now we're gonna use TA. So we have TA as a benefit as active duty, right? Tuition assistance, and then you got VR&E when you're out, and the GI Bill, which is a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be a tower technician. So I'm just gonna climb some towers,
like a lineman.
In a sense, yeah.
Oh, cool, man.
It's basically the people that climb, that go up to cell towers and radio towers.
Okay.
And they have this whole course, 7-month course. It's around $15,000, but the benefits all cover it. So I don't have any student loans to worry about, right? And I'm already getting started as an active duty, right? Tuition
good for
assistant,
you.
right? So
for you.
It'll give me all the certifications that I need, all the tuition.
Sure.
Education, and then once I'm done with that course, jobs will start wanting me to be in their thing, because not a lot of people want to climb a tower because heights, right?
No doubt.
You know what I mean? And not even that, but like I said, the resources that help us, the transition liaison, amazing woman, by the way. She's helping me out to build a resume. And what's cool about these transition liaisons, and not just transition liaisons, when you go to TRS or TAPS, they really tell you a lot.
Yeah.
Trust me, and if you pay attention, you'll know. And they tell you a lot of how to help you build a resume. And basically what the resume is going to help you is to translate everything that you did in the military to a civilian, right? The whole point of a resume is just translation of you.
Yeah.
And
this is cool because, you're one of the younger folks that I've had, on the show, and talking about
22.
Yeah, a lot of times, I'm talking to people, who are a little bit more older.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that you want to do blue collar work and lineman stuff, because a lot of people, want to go right into government industry and things. I always say this, that, like it's a rebirth. Whether you do 4 years or 30 years in the Marine Corps, you have the opportunity out there to be, whatever you want to do. And here's the other thing I would say, James, that it's okay. Like when you're a civilian, you're not locked in. So if you do this lineman thing and tower thing and you don't like it, guess what? You can pivot and take your skills elsewhere.
No, I totally understand. But one thing I will say is that, so at the end of the day, right, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, no more 2 paychecks a month. But at the end of the day in this world, you need money to survive. So I know, sure, this probably won't be I'm young, right? So this probably won't be my career, but it'll be a path and an opening to learn more about the industry. And maybe I can find different jobs in said industry.
Absolutely.
In the industry of linemen, of people that go up the towers and the turbines, the wind turbines. There's a whole industry that I'm so ready to explore. And I'm so thankful for the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps really teaches you how to fend for yourself.
And it's interesting because a lot of folks, they're dismissive of their experiences in the Marine Corps, like especially us combat arms times. The guys like, what do I know how to do? I know how to do machine guns. I know how to do first echelon maintenance. I know basic, tactics and things. But it's like that those intangible skills that you get from being a Marine are very valued in the civilian world. So, to the viewers, don't ever underestimate, the experiences that you have had in the Marine Corps. Just because you don't have something that directly translates into something like information technology or, some sort of skill that you have, those intangibles are powerful, man. They will drive you towards success.
And let me add on to that as well. In the infantry, a lot of people think that in infantry there's really no growth in the sense of like getting off. Like the only jobs you could probably work are police and whatnot, or EMT or firefighter. But incorrect. Let me tell you something. Being a lineman, right? You carry a bunch of stuff, and you have to go and climb a ladder, right? So it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to get is, in the infantry, you do hikes where you're carrying a lot of weight, and not even just hikes, but when you're doing squad attacks, squad ranges, you have flak, you have a lot of weight on you. So the point I'm trying to get at is that now that place is covered. So now that for example, the tower technician people know that, hey, this guy is fit and can carry his weight in the sense of like going up a ladder and carrying the weight, right? And not a lot of people get to do that in the outside world. Not a lot of people get to do that in the world of, because in the Marine Corps, they're very focused on that sense of, in the infantry specifically, of, staying fit, right?
Yep.
Not a lot of people that are not in the military, sometimes they don't stay fit, and they just do their job and lose themselves, right? But the point I'm trying to say is that you can connect that. And another thing, so you're going up that tower, right? And you have all this stuff, and you got to keep it on you, right?
Yep.
You got to make sure you don't lose it, because if you lose it, now you got to go all down, or you're wasting time. You're wasting the job's time. But what's cool is that in the infantry, you literally do stressful, strenuous work with expensive gear on you, and every, accountability and EDL, you're always making sure you have that on your body, on your person, expensive equipment. If you're able to translate that, remember the resume translates it perfectly, but you're able to translate like, hey, I can do a stressful environment and have expensive equipment on me and still do the job and get the job done and have all equipment on me.
It's perfect.
You know what I mean?
You're seeing the tie-ins.
Yes.
And that's valuable. I'm excited about your future.
I'm
and
excited.
before I give it over to you to close us out, I would just offer to you that you've been through this roller coaster of emotions, and going through these things, now what to look for, right? Mm-hmm. So now you understand, like where your friction points are and where those things are. So I guess I say that to remind you that if you have these feelings, these emotions again, that you know how to treat them. That's powerful.
Yes, and I will close with that as well, because I will tell people.
Close us out, man.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, you don't have to go through what I did to start knowing, like, oh shit, I gotta get shit together. But the point I'm trying to get at is, you don't have to go through a traumatic event to make a change. I'm just happy that I'm still alive to tell you that. To tell you, by the way, you know, when they took the bullet out, I was up and ready. Like nothing happened. It was like a bruise, you know? Like I didn't really go through a lot of shit in the sense of recovery. It just shows like it was just so quick. But the point I'm trying to get at is, you don't have to go through a traumatic event to start making some changes. The only time you can make the changes is right now, as we speak. And don't worry, it'll take time. Have patience. You know, you can't get stuff rapidly, but yeah, just start exploring yourself
and love yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And like love yourself. And I know that's hard. It's easier said than done.
Oh yeah,
and,
definitely easier.
I had a gentleman named Tyler Gray on a couple episodes ago, and he talked about, you know, like self-love, and, you know, a guy with all his success, you know, in the military, post-military, he did not love himself. And like, you're scratching, you're like, how the hell can this guy not love himself? Like, he's so successful. Yeah. But, you know, life is a marathon, you know, not a sprint. And we live in this world of like instant gratification, and we're always seeking that and looking for it. But I think it's just important to find value about yourself. And it's easier said than done, because a lot of people out there, just especially veterans, they feel like shit, and they feel like they are shit. So it's a process of knowing that about yourself, and then finding the right avenue, you know, for you, you know, to expand upon that and find, you know, the value within yourself. So
yeah. And one thing I will say as well is, like, you know, just give me a text through social media. I'll be glad to answer it. The whole point of my rest of my life now, I just want to share. And if I can just share this stuff to y'all, and just share this experience and this learning experience, and just give you the example to not do what I did, to not end your demise in the way that I did, or end your demise in any different type. I'm just an example to just not do that, and I'm alive to tell you to not do that. That you don't need to do that.
Yeah, man, we don't quit.
Yeah.
No quitting.
No, just keep. The only thing that's most valuable in your life is your life. It's not the car. It's not the house. It's your life. Not a lot of people get to have a full life, you know. Like,
and regardless of what we feel inside our own minds, right? Somebody, more people than you think, find you, you know, valuable. Find you, you know, and it makes their day better knowing that you're still alive and you're still out there trying.
Hell yeah.
It's important.
No, and I'm happy to show that. I'm happy to show that drive. I'm happy to show that, in lack of better words, to show the balls to just speak on this subject and speak on this matter. Because this matter, not a lot of people want to talk about it because they care about their image. But I feel like a good leader would want to talk about this stuff, because we all go through this. We all go through this, no matter the age. I know I'm 22, but that doesn't mean I don't know much. I've been through. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm not saying everything I'm saying is right. You know, who am I to say that? I'm an imperfect man. You know, but I do know a thing or two to share that makes sense. I have evidence, right, to prove.
I thank you for sharing tonight with us. Yeah. I'm very grateful. Yeah. And a big shout out to Charles Williams, my fellow Sergeant Major brother out there, you know, who got me linked up with you.
He's a good man.
One of the best I've ever served with. Just he's got more character in his pinky finger than most people have in their whole body.
Indeed.
To the point where I'll tell you a story when we get done about him once we get done filming. But incredible. Thank you to him. Thank you to you.
And
I wish you.
Shout out to all the dads too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for you to have the cojones, you know, to come in here, you know, and sit across from me and share this is strong. And to me, it shows, you know, strength, not weakness. So thank you.
Of course. You're welcome.
And with that, we'll end it for the evening.
Of course.
I just wanted to say to everybody, you know, hey, thanks again for all your support. I hope that you got something out of this episode. I'm certain that that James has got a very bright future, and again, look for those indication warnings. You know, if you listen to this, pay attention to those out there, because suicide, I don't want it to be a topic that just kind of dies out and we turn the page, we mourn, you know, and then we wear a wristband, which is great for the memory, but if we can continue to try, you know, to not make this topic taboo and dive into it, I think that this episode is all well worth it, and it was well worth James's time for being here. So
yeah, keep your minds curious. Don't stop questioning stuff. Keep your minds curious, and like I said, explore yourself. At the end of the day, the best advocate is going to be you, to yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. Only you can.
Yeah, man. Fist bump.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. We're gonna end it. Take care, everybody. It's been
Hell
great.
yeah. Thank you.